One of the biggest mistakes I see people making before moving to Albania isn't picking the wrong city. It's believing they know how it's going to feel before they live here. Usually people fall into one of two camps. Some people expect paradise, others expect disaster, but the funny thing is they both make the same mistake. After living in Albania for over a year, I've learned that reality is rarely as good as the fantasy, but it's usually not as bad as most people fear. In fact, I just had my first real experience with the Albanian healthcare system. It's a problem I've been having for over 6 months, and I've been putting off addressing it because I was just concerned about dealing with foreign healthcare. But I'll come back to that later. First, let's talk about expectations. Before you move somewhere, you don't experience the place itself. You experience the story that you built in your head about it, often heavily influenced by content creators like me. Seeking out information is really helpful, but once the research is done, I think most people fall into one of two categories. First, you have people that think that Albania is paradise.
Double rainbow, oh my God.
Oh, wow! It is not hard to find people making content about how life in Albania is cheap and stress-free. There are millions of videos of picturesque B-roll, people just gushing about how much they love a new place or how much a country feels like paradise. Some people move here and they assume that the view is going to cure their burnout, or the culture is going to solve their marriage problems, or they're easily just going to join a new thriving community. Like here in Vlora, for example, where it's currently high season. I can see the streets filling up with tourists. As everywhere you look, there are people with stars in their eyes that are just captivated by the scenery, and everything just looks like a Mediterranean fantasy to them. But then you see people on the other end of the spectrum that will say, Albania is a disaster.
Life is pain, Highness.
Anyone who says differently is selling something.
Believe me, I have the comment section to prove this. People think that the healthcare system is completely broken. They think that the infrastructure is crumbling. They think that nothing works and that life here is just a constant struggle. They assume that life here would be terrible in comparison to life in the suburbs. They wouldn't be able to acclimate to new traffic patterns or new foods or new cultures. The ways a person can hate the unfamiliar are limitless. If a person's decided to have a bad time, good luck convincing them otherwise. And don't get me wrong, I've talked about a lot of these topics myself. You just have to remember that everything comes with nuance. Take, for example, my recent experience with Albanian healthcare. Over 6 months ago, I started having some shoulder pain, and it just increasingly got worse. And I knew I needed to get it looked at, but I just kept putting it off because I'd heard so many horror stories about the healthcare here in Albania. If you've ever spent any time dealing with shoulder problems, then you know it can be a real can of worms. I started to fear the idea of recovering from shoulder surgery, even though I had no idea if that was something that would even be suggested. I was afraid a doctor might do more harm than good because I was convinced the healthcare here would be inadequate. But eventually, the pain got worse than the fear. With some encouragement from my amazing wife, I pushed past the concern, booked an appointment with a clinic last week. I was ready to see peeling paint and flickering light bulbs. I had this terrible dystopian vision in my head of this liminal space hospital that was just a nightmare. But as soon as I walked in, I was surprised at how nice it looked.
Inconceivable!
Not to say it looked like a US waiting room. First of all, we were the only people waiting, which was great, pretty unusual. But also the front door was just open because it was a beautiful day. It's pretty common for businesses here to do that. So it was not expected to see it happening in a waiting room at a doctor's office, but it was nice. The temperature was very pleasant. I looked over and saw a sign that had all of the different specialists that worked in the facility, and I was very surprised at how robust it seemed. No flickering light bulbs, no peeling paint. I don't think we waited even 15 minutes before I found myself talking to a rheumatologist. It was a really nice, clean, well-lit office. He didn't speak much English, but there was a nice medical assistant that was fluent that helped. The doctor seemed extremely attentive. He was a guy, I'd say in his early 60s, very compassionate, seemed like he was really concerned with helping me, paid a lot of attention, didn't seem rushed. After about 15 minutes of some questions and some poking and prodding, he diagnosed it as tendonitis, and he thinks hopefully it can be cured with some prescriptions. I'm about halfway through the prescription course now, and while it's not completely healed, it feels substantially better. Now here's the craziest part. The appointment itself cost about $25 out of pocket, no coverage. I got 3 prescriptions totaling less than $75. The entire visit with the prescriptions cost less than $100. In addition to that, it was booked the same day. Now try doing that in the US.
Inconceivable! Inconceivable!
I remember once getting referred to a specialist back in the US, and it took 3 or 4 months just for the referral to work its way up through the system for me to get a phone call so I could schedule an appointment and my insurance would pay for it. It's so convoluted. The doctor might not have cured me, but the point here is that my preconceived notions of the healthcare infrastructure here were not doing me any favors. While not like a US experience, in some very important ways, it was actually better. There are valid complaints that can be made about the healthcare here, but clearly that doesn't mean that quality care can't be found. The thing that was causing me the most stress wasn't the healthcare system itself, it was the vision of it in my head that I had created. And this point goes way beyond Albania. The hard truth about moving abroad.
You want answers! I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
There are some people that aren't going to want to hear this, but the hard truth is no amount of research can completely prepare you for what it's going to feel like to live abroad. After living here over a year, I've seen it all. Some people come here and they hate the strays, or they hate the trash, or the cigarette culture, or the street noise. And some people come here even knowing all of these things could be an issue, thinking it won't bother them, and then they discover that it does bother them. So it goes. Some people think awareness equals preparedness. That's just not how it works. You don't discover it intellectually, you discover it through experience. The biggest thing that I've learned after moving out of the US is that expectations are terrible predictors of experience. There's only one way to know how you might feel, and that's why a test trip matters. This is why I always tell people to take a test trip whenever possible. It's not to take photos or see the attractions or try all the new exciting restaurants, although you can do that too and you should. It's to experience the grocery shopping. If you're gonna drive, rent a car and feel what the traffic is like. Try out the public transit. See if the noise level bothers you. If you can stay long enough, try and create some mini routines. Leave the tourist areas and try and walk around alone. If possible, come during the off season. Make a pros and cons list and really think about it while you're here. It's not vacation. If you don't treat a test trip like it has a purpose, you might not get what you need out of it. Remember, it's to help you make an informed decision. Put simply, try living there instead of visiting there. Some people fantasize, others catastrophize, but neither predict the future. If you want to move abroad but you're afraid, don't assume it's as bad as you expect.
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together.
But also, if it sounds like a dream come true, maybe temper that a little and remind yourself that it's not a fantasy. There's a famous French philosopher named Michel de Montaigne, I'm sure I'm butchering that, who said, "My life has been filled with terrible misfortune, most of which never happened." My experience really reflects this idea. For 6 months, I've been worried about a doctor's appointment that took less than an hour and cost less than $100.
Inconceivable.
Now I'm feeling better, I'm sleeping better, and most importantly, I'm less afraid of experiencing healthcare in a foreign country. Pretty likely I'll see a doctor again at some point in the future, so I better get used to it.
You can deny all the things I've seen, all the things I've discovered, but not for much longer.
It's just a good reminder that the stories we tell ourselves are often a lot worse than the reality. If you enjoyed this and you'd like to support the channel, you can scan the QR code here, or you can look for the link in the description below to buy me a coffee. It's a one-man show here, and no joke, I drink a lot of coffee, so any support is greatly appreciated. Make sure to like and subscribe. I just passed 2,000 subscribers, and if you want to help me get to 3,000 subscribers, make sure to share it with somebody. If you can relate to this and you're unsure of what to make living in Albania or life abroad more generally, you're in the right place. I got a lot of videos talking about it. YouTube thinks you're gonna love this next one. See you soon.
You keep using the word. I don't think it means what you think it means.